With that, it is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the afternoon, Christine Tao. Christine is an experienced entrepreneurial executive in media, mobile, and technology. She's the co-founder and CEO at Sounding Board, a Silicon Valley startup redefining how organizations are developing their leaders. Sounding Board is one of under 1% of sole female-founded startups that has received venture funding. She advises several startups, is a budding angel investor, and is also a Tory Burch Foundation Fellow, a foundation dedicated to investing in the success and sustainability of women entrepreneurs. Please give her a warm welcome.
Okay. So, super excited to be here. And let's get started. So, how many of you remember this? Yeah, right? This was the internet meme that broke the internet in February of 2015. And so what happened was a woman had posted the picture on the left, and the internet literally went crazy because you either saw a white gold dress or a blue and black one. And the reason that it went crazy is because it didn't matter which one you saw, it was just completely unbelievable that somebody else could see something different, right? And so, you know, what was going on? Like, were our eyes just playing tricks on us? Or, you know, what, was some weird mind tricks? Well, so the thing is that there was actually visual cues that would determine what it was that you saw. And the science behind why one person would see a white gold dress and another person would see a blue and black one was actually just based on one key assumption. Whether you were assuming that the white was under a shadow, the dress was under a shadow, or under bright light. And so those that saw that the dress was in shadow would see a white and gold dress, and those that assumed that it was getting washed out by bright light would see a blue and black one. And so, you know, why am I here talking about a white gold dress when we're here at a forum talking about female leadership? Well, it turns out that this internet meme is a surprisingly fitting metaphor for my career. So I don't really know what that says about my career, but, you know, here we are. So my name is Christine Tao. I'm the CEO and co-founder at Sounding Board. At Sounding Board, our mission is to really help companies develop their employees in a much more personalized way. We do that by integrating best-in-class leadership coaches with software that enable us to allow users to chat with their coaches on demand, you know, set goals, track their progress. And we sell this solution to companies like Rakuten and Glue Mobile and Bloomberg to help them develop their leaders at scale. And I started this company because I was there. So before this startup, I was in a fast-growing startup of my own. You know, when I started the company, it was about 30 people, and in 3 years, we scaled to over 300. We raised over $70 million in capital, and hit over $100 million in revenue. And I went from being, you know, a single salesperson to actually running the entire sales team, and I had never done that job before. And I was just really lucky. You know, our CEO and our board were really supportive. They gave me an executive coach, and that person really helped me through these crazy leadership transitions that I was making in such a short time. And actually today, my co-founder at Sounding Board is my executive coach, Lori. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, there's definitely ups and downs. You know, sometimes when we talk and I feel like she's Jedi mind tricking me, you know, like those are the days where you kind of wonder what's going on. But yeah, so back to the dress. So yes, why are we talking about the dress again? Well, really, you know, if you really only take one thing away from my talk today, I really want you to remember that in life and in work, situations can often feel really black and white, or, you know, in this case, white, gold, and blue, black. But what I've learned over the years is that it's really never that simple. And whether it's your coworkers or your boss, and certainly with your friends and family, that what you see is not always what you get. And so what I would really implore, and I think what I'm really asking everybody here today to do, is really two things. It's one, to challenge your assumptions, and two, to really lean into empathy and think about just having another perspective on some of the things that you think are, an absolute fact. So, let me share a couple of stories. So I was just fresh out of college, right? So I'd landed this internship, and it was going to be amazing. I was going to work at Ketchum Public Relations, and I was a part-time intern, and I was going to parlay this job into like a full-time job as an account coordinator, making $28,000 a year. Like, it was going to be amazing. And I'm sure you guys can probably guess where this story is going. Yeah, I didn't get the job. So, and I didn't really know why, because I was working my butt off. Anything that they asked me, it was, please do this, please do that. Yes, 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 But the thing was, when it came time for those one-on-ones with my manager, or sort of making, chit-chat with my coworkers over the water cooler, I just wasn't really that interested. And to be honest, I was a little bit uncomfortable, and I didn't really know how to have those conversations. But, I didn't realize that that was important. And so, okay, at Ketchum, they worked with a lot of food and agricultural clients. So one of our really big clients was the California Dried Plum Board. So, now you have to remember, this was 20 years ago. So at the time, the California Dried Plum Board was going through this really big shift. They were going to change their image because, okay, does everybody know what a dried plum is? Yes, right. So prunes, right? Fruits reserved for your grandmother and, like general digestive issues, right? So like the big thing was like they were going to create all of these new use cases for dried plums. Like we're going to have them at breakfast. It was going to be a healthy start, right? And so you can imagine I was so excited because my manager comes to me and she tells me, we're going to give you this big job. We want you to get Southwest Airlines to sample dried plums on their morning flight. So passengers start to associate, breakfast with dried plums. And so, I was super excited. I tried emailing, calling them, and, I just ran into all these roadblocks, and I couldn't get anywhere. So I walked over to my coworker, and I said, could I get some help on this? And, she said something to me that really surprised me. And she said, oh, they gave you that assignment, Christine? That's the job they gave every intern that's walked through the stores, and nobody's been able to get that assignment done. Like, I'm surprised they're having you work on that, And so, as you can imagine, I was devastated. What I thought was this like really important initiative for my group ended up basically being the equivalent of my manager telling me to go pound sand, right? But then, I decided, I was like, like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show them, right? And so I called all these different airlines, and I actually got Alaska Airlines as catering manager to run 10,000 bags of dried plums to all of their passengers on their morning flights. Okay, and so I was pretty excited. I mean, it was such a big accomplishment that our vice president even sent, a note to the entire company about what the intern was able to do. And so I thought, no, for sure, I have this job in the bag. Well, as you know, I didn't get the job. And, when they didn't even consider me for the job, I didn't even get to interview for it. And then they asked me to train the new account coordinator that they actually hired. I just walked out of there. I was like, forget this. These people are terrible. They're tactless. They don't know how to treat people. I even thought, like, I'm Asian American, and they're all, Caucasian women, and, maybe it's even a racial thing. I really went there. And, I was really upset. But, thinking back, I realized that while I did an amazing job at the work, what I actually didn't really understand was what it was going to take to get the job, right? And for me, what I thought I was doing was like showing up to work, being the boss, and what I didn't understand was what they were actually seeing was a fresh young college grad that didn't really know how to dress properly for work, didn't really know how to establish relationships with her manager, and just, to be honest, didn't really have a clue about how to navigate the corporate world. And so my assumption had been that if I just worked hard or worked harder than anybody else, that that was what was going to be the key to my success. And look, I'm not saying that you don't have to work hard. I mean, working hard, it's table stakes. You have to at least work hard. But what I'm saying is that how you show up also really matters. And in some cases, sometimes it even matters more than the work itself. And so that was actually a really hard lesson for me to learn. And, I don't know what happened, but, 8 years later, it ended up happening again. And that's how I ended up getting restructured out of a job at Google. And then another 5 years later, happened to me again, and, ended up having me leave a job after only 3 months in the role. And so it just sort of shows that even hard lessons take a long time to stick. But maybe I'll move on to my second lesson. This one only took me 4 years to land, okay? So now, I'm an executive, and I just started another new job. It was about 3 or 4 weeks in, and I was really starting to get that sinking feeling you get in your gut. Some of you are nodding your head. It's like, yeah, like maybe I took the wrong job. And what was happening was the more and more that I learned and worked with the CEO, the more that I started to understand that he was going to be somebody that was really challenging for me to work with. And it was going to be a lot harder than I thought. And things really took a turn for the worse in the 4th week. So, yeah, we go into a meeting with our executive staff, and that one did not go well. He is upset because it didn't go the way that he liked, and we go into our one-on-one, and he just lays it into me. I remember kind of having this out-of-body experience, feeling like you're floating above yourself, watching this grown man literally have a tantrum and yell and scream at me like a child. And by the way, if you kind of Google angry boss yelling, you get these crazy pictures like this. Like, if you can imagine, like, yelling at somebody so hard that your hair and your tie flies back. I mean, that's kind of how I felt, But anyways, okay, so yeah, I quit that job, right? Because he's crazy, right? Like, that definitely was not me. He was the crazy one, right? And I even got an email from him 3 months later. It says, Christine, I've been working with an executive coach, and I wanted to apologize for my behavior. So I was like, yes, that's right. See? Even he knows that he wasn't behaving properly, right? But then I started my own company, Sounding Board, and I entered this period where I actually found myself having really challenging conversations with one of my own senior executives. And I remember coming out of this meeting and thinking, like, God, how do they not know that this thing is so critical? Like, we're going to lose the company. Like, how is this person even an executive? Like, how could they even be thinking this way? Like, what are they thinking? And then I had this flashback, because those were the exact same words that CEO and co-founder had said to me in that room. And I mean, it was uncanny how similar the words were. And so, what's the lesson? I mean, okay, so I'm being a little facetious. It's that, for me, what I think I really learned is that it's really, really hard to really put yourself in somebody else's frame of mind. And while it's never okay to scream and berate people, that it actually took me, like, starting my own company, becoming a CEO, and experiencing the exact same thing for me to finally really understand that he was actually just incredibly stressed about the future of the company and really worried, right? And so, when I, was kind of pulling together this talk, I thought, I don't have some crazy stories, but what I might be able to leave you with is just those two ideas. That you kind of never know how people are feeling, and that it's always in your best interest to challenge your assumptions, lean into empathy, and try somebody else's dress on for size. So, thank you.